Thank you very much for everybody for staying back and being connected. After looking at an interesting perspective on restoration and conservation, we now move on to a session which discusses culture, tradition, craft, and toys. Our next session is moderated by Professor Sangita Shroff. Professor Sangita Shroff heads the Department of Design at the Nirma University, Ahmedabad. She is an alumni of the National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, and has also studied design in London as a UNDP fellow. Her primary specialization is visual communication with further specialization in exhibition and space design. She has more than 35 years of experience in design education, research, training, and professional design practice. Her broad spectrum of experiences and widespread network with the industry, the social sector, practicing professionals and academicians across the board is highly valuable for the students and institutions that she has been associated with. Today, she's going to talk to us about design of toys and games, building an enterprise with craft tradition. She shall be joined by Vinita Nahar and Judy Frater and Vijay Pati. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Hari, so much. Thank you so very much also to Shweta for making this, to facilitate us in this presentation. So the session seeks to explore narratives of people who have built enterprises based on traditional skills, know-how, and on crafting traditions, on the making traditions of India. Increasingly, government's focus is to build an attitudinal change from job-seeking citizens to job-creating entrepreneurs. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a call to facilitate this philosophy. This presentation will focus on 3 small creative enterprises that are built on traditional concepts of games, crafting, and making traditions, and also on the concept of making and learning by self. The 3 creative enterprises and individuals who will present their case studies has been mentioned already. Judy Frater, who is currently in America, Vinita Nahar, who is with us, and Vijay Pati, who will join us very soon. About Judy Frater, many of you already know her. She's a social entrepreneur who is worked in the world of with the textile artisans of Kutch for almost 30 years, and during which period she co-founded and operated Kala Raksha Trust, a cooperative for women embroiderers, and subsequently established the Kala Raksha Museum and the Kala Raksha Vidyalay, which was the first design school for traditional artisans. For this concept, she won many awards. She got the Ashoka Fellowship Award in 2003. She got the Misha Black Medal for Distinguished Services to Design Education in 2009, the Crafts Council of India Kamla Award in 2010, and George B. Walter 36 Service to Society Award from Lawrence University in 2014, and finally, the New Delhi Rotary Distinguished Service Award in 2020. In 2014, Judy Frater moved on to start another design school for artisans called Somaya Kala Vidya. And because of the pandemic, she's currently in the US, and therefore we had to record her PowerPoint presentation and conversation. Over to you, Shweta, to please show us the film in which we have recorded Judy Frater's presentation. Welcome, Judy Frater. I invite you for this conference to make a presentation on subsequently, you were the founder and motivator of Kala Raksha Vidyalay. Now, of course, you are at Somaya Kalavidya, but the path-breaking, groundbreaking work that you did there, and particularly the work that you did with developing the board games based on traditional games with the artisans of Kutch. I'd like you to share with our audience the kind of games that you developed. I'm sharing the screen with you, and I would like you to start your presentation. The screen is, it's already shared with you. You may start your presentation.
Thank you, Sangita.
Could you make this full screen? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it takes a minute. Okay, so I'm very glad to have this opportunity, and takes me way back to the early days of Kala Raksha. And when we started Kala Raksha, we started with embroiderers of Kutch. We started one community at a time, building up. And we started with nothing, and Aid to Artisans, a very innovative and creative organization in the US, gave us our first grant. And Aid to Artisans has a unique position in being connected to artisans as well as markets, as well as funders. And they gave us money. They also gave us advice. So right away, I sent images of traditional objects that I had collected. I put together a museum, which was used by Kala Raksha as a resource base. And Claire Brett Smith, who was the founder of Aid to Artisans, zeroed in on the Chopad game and said, let's make that. So I got it. You know, she and I just had a kind of clicking. And this is a photograph here that I'm beginning with of an actual Chopad game being used at a wedding in the probably in 1990, somewhere around there. But we also had them in our collection. And it's a soft game. It's made out of fiber, out of textiles, and it's portable, and it was a great idea. And also there was nothing else like it in the market, the contemporary market at that time. So also what I liked about making this game was that it was a product in that it was comprehensive product. There was the object itself, then there was the packaging, and then the information. And all of that offered opportunity to use lots of traditional crafts of Kutch. So along with the Chopad game, which is, you know, it in its traditional use, it packs right up. There's a pocket in the middle, and you know, the players and the cowries go inside and you wrap it up. But you know, for the contemporary market, we had another opportunity. So I thought about this envelope bag that is ubiquitous in communities in Kutch. Each community makes their own version and has their own name for it, and the original name comes from Irani word, I think, but it's called Bagchi or Bujki or Gupchi, depending on, maybe there's even more, depending on the community. So I thought this could be a good packaging also for the Chopad. So here's the game that we developed. We had Rabari artisans embroider it, and then for the players, there was another opportunity. We used cowries for the counters, and you know, I took this opportunity in the brochure to talk about the tradition. Why were the cowries used? How are they used? Teaching people about cultural heritage as well as the game. So it's beautiful. So it becomes like a conversation piece as well as a game you can play, and it's something the family can do together. For the players, I saw that many communities would take a supari nut and crochet over it, put a little mirror underneath just as a showpiece, and the mirror keeps away the evil eye. So we used those as the players. So everything was local. Okay, that went really well. You know, it was new in the market. It made people smile because it was like seeing an old friend, you know, oh gosh, I remember my grandma used to play that, or we had one in our house, you know, and adults would buy it for themselves as well as for children. So then I thought, okay, that's good. Let's build on that. So I looked around at what were traditional games. A friend of mine in Delhi has educational organization, and she had a teacher's manual that had games in it, and one was Wag or Bakri, which is called Fox and Geese in America. And I thought, okay, this could be a board game too. So all of these, we turned them into fabric games. They weren't originally all fabric games, okay? And we worked all with local traditions. So the primary group that Kalaraksha worked with, the Maru Megwals, made wonderful dolls. So I asked a woman, can you make a tiger and a goat? And she said, sure. And here's what she came up with. And I knew people would buy this game just because the animals were so adorable. And they did. And it's an easy game to play. We would demonstrate them at exhibitions. We used, again, the supari nuts for the players because you can't have so many. I mean, I think there's 20 goats and 4 tigers. Well, you couldn't have 20 stuffed animals. It would also become expensive. So we had one as a token. Then we used these suparis as the rest of them. And again, each bag I wanted to have different, I wanted people to think, what's next? And so here, this is a bag that also you can use as a handbag, right? It has a strap. Next, I thought, well, the Rabaris do this fantastic beadwork, and I love these dabak. They're ornaments worn in a child's hair, braided into the hair over the temples. And I thought, well, let's make checkers out of that. So I did some research on checkers. Yes, it was used in India. It was so we made the checkerboard and used these dabak in beadwork for the players. And it also, it enabled people to use their traditions, some of which were not being used so much anymore. Again, I made sure that, when you play a game, you lose the pieces. Then the game is like, not very functional anymore. So I made sure that we had one extra one of each color, and it was used as an ornament on the bag here. And we had, if the Art Cafe make our brochures, they had a lot of fun playing with the brochures as well. The brochures included about the game, about the culture, and of course, how to play the game, and about Kalaraksha. Okay, so we had 3. Then one day, serendipitously, I happened to see carved into the floor this pattern. I said, what's that? And the Rabari householder said, oh, it's a game. I said, bingo, there we go, one more. And so I wanted to make this a little blingy just to add variety. So we used mushroom fabric and beaded cowries for the players. And again, here on the bag, and here's a little handbag that you can use. We had one of each color on either side in case you lose one. More than one, that's your responsibility, okay? Okay. Then the grand finale in my mind from the beginning was snakes and ladders. I thought, oh, there's a lot we can do with this. And at the time we made it finally, we had an education program going. So it was an opportunity to teach the women how to write numbers 1 to 100 in English, because Gujarati wouldn't have gone beyond Gujarat. And then we were also doing these narrative works. So they were really good. They made these 3-dimensional snakes, and they had a lot of fun with it. And I knew the bag would be a great handbag as well. And so you get 2 in 1, right? There's an appeal of that. The bag, I wanted the snakes as the handle. And then the tailors on their own, they weren't getting into it. They came up with the idea of machine embroidering the snakes on the bag, which really added a wonderful touch. And they had a lot of fun making the, different, each snake was unique. And for the players, I thought, well, each time I wanted to add another craft, and the local men are leather workers. So I had them make these leather like coins for the players. And we had met someone at a Dastakar Bazaar in Delhi who made wooden dies that were wonderful with the little brass dots for the numbers on them. And so we ordered those from him. And that was Snakes and Ladders. I thought that was the end, but by popular request, we had to make one more, Ashtachama. Now this one isn't played in Kutch, but it's made in India. It's a traditional Indian game. And I wanted to use the jut embroidery, which we hadn't used so far. We've used patchwork, rabari embroidery, what else? Patchwork and rabari mostly. And I thought, well, let's use some jut embroidery here. And for the players, I thought, okay, now what other crafts can we involve? And I thought of pottery. I went to a local potter and asked him to make toys. And he made, I think, probably 50 unique, wonderful toys. They looked just like they were out of the Harappan civilization. They were fantastic. So we made them in 2 different colors so they could be distinguished. And so those were the players. And this game, it's a great game. It's a fun game to play. And, another opportunity to write about traditional culture. But there were some practical issues with it. The toys were fragile. They're only fired once. They're not glazed, and they would break. You had to pack them very carefully. And then also, when you pack them up, it just became a very big and heavy package. So this one wasn't, and it wasn't also familiar. I mean, the checkers, chopad, Snakes and Ladders, they're all really familiar games. And even in, abroad, people, oh yeah, I remember that game, but Ashtachama didn't have that kind of nostalgic appeal, so it didn't sell as well. So that was our game collection, and it was fresh in the market, and people liked it. It sold also, when we took things abroad, it sold abroad as well.
So wonderful. I have a feeling that both the artisans and the people who purchased these board games would have had great joy in receiving it and making it. So typically, these games would sell in museum shops, or would they also sell in regular children's toy shops?
Specialty children's, like there's one here in Santa Fe that's the person who owns it goes to great lengths to get really unusual, wonderful, eco-friendly, no plastic toys. She loves these. She always buys them. There was a shop in New York City also that had a similar kind of focus. So,
and in India, what kind of stores would keep these bags?
Well, I remember that Contemporary Arts and Crafts, which I don't think is in existence anymore, but they bought them and they really loved them. Because I didn't do the marketing, I'm not sure who else. And the very beginning of Color Raksha, I helped with marketing, but then...
So would it also be that in the Dastakar fairs, the nature bazaar, you sold them a lot?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And what would be the kind of profile of people who would buy them? Would they buy them as part of home decor because it was a traditional craft, it was so colorful, and it could become a conversation piece in a drawing room at home or a living room at home? Or did people also use it to play the game?
Both. I mean, people introduced, it was an opportunity for families to play together. And it was an opportunity to introduce young children about culture. It's a talking point that way also. This is a game that we used to play, and you can read up on the history of it in the brochure if you don't already know. So, yeah, and I think it's something different. Usually you go to these bazaars, and, mostly Color Raksha would sell to in exhibitions and also to tourists who came to the center in Kutch. You see the same old stuff, but here is something that nobody else was doing. So it had a nice niche.
So, and did the children in Kutch, when they saw their mothers embroidering or patching these games, what was their response?
Oh, they like to play. They wanted to learn how to play. And like when we went to exhibitions, just, it was good advertising too, but it was entertainment. When there were lulls, they would grab one of the games and start playing. And then, people would come over and see, what are you doing? Oh, yeah.
Wonderful. I think it's such an interesting concept, and the kind of work you're doing now in the design school for artisans. I think you should reintroduce the concept of designing new games and new board games, because a lot of your artisanal students who come from other traditions other than embroidery, like say people who are weavers, people who come from a leather craft or a wood craft or a tie and dye craft. I think there is an immense possibility to develop more games and more visual narrative games. So I think it's a great idea to introduce this in the curriculum of Somaya Kalavidya.
Yeah, we will add it to when we do we have a limited course. There are only 6 courses within the course, and they are 2 weeks, very intensive. But there is one in collection development, so maybe we'll offer that as, we do this brainstorming of Vastu Dunya. What are all the things in the world and how can you organize them? So we haven't added games to that. We can.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was such an inspiring presentation. Although I've been seeing these games for last 20 years and looking at it absolutely afresh in the context of the toy and game design initiative that the government of India has now taken on a grand footing. Thank you so very much, Judy, and I hope you remain safe and healthy in these pandemic times, and hope to see you very soon back in India, in Kutch, in Gujarat.
This year, God willing.
Outdoor. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. So we come to our next entrepreneur, Vinita Nahar. She's the founder of Active Hands, which provides hands-on interactive craft-based learning aids. Her interest in exploring interdisciplinary learning through creative mediums and sustainable means, along with the concern for holistic development, has led her to start this initiative. Vinita has 24 years of experience ranging from textile apparel to craft training. She's after commencing her ethnic apparel label, she started working with institutions and organizations like NIFT Gandhinagar, Seva, EXDL Denmark, and has also been associated with social enterprises like Krida, Manav Sadhana, Andhkanya Vidyalay, Vikas Grah, etc. She founded Active Hands in 2015 along with her sister, and she takes care of design, research, marketing, training, and exposure programs. Over to you, Vinita. Welcome to the session.
Thank you, Sangita. It's really wonderful to be a part of this session today. And I think it's a great initiative by Ahmedabad Design Week to have included crafts in this session also. So I'm really thankful to you. Thanks for that. I'll start with my presentation.
Yeah. Vinita, you'll have to speak a little loudly.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's good.
My screen is visible now?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I'll start talking about this initiative called Active Hands, which we started. And of course, the mission was actually to give every child an opportunity to learn crafts. So as a child, I was exposed to a lot of crafts and had really great passion and interest towards learning crafts. But I saw a changing scenario, and which led me to really think how I can give crafts to every child, every person who would be interested. just checking. So we started. Yeah, so we started with the collection of a few crafts. Then it grew crafts like based on our rich cultural tradition, like weaving, loom, paper making, tying dye, indigo dyeing. Went on to including bead making, beadworks, so doing geometric patterns in beads, block printing, paper crafts, dried press flower, book binding, paper mache, things to stitch, to learn to stitch, you can have origami cloth bag, paper, soap making, natural soap making. So the idea was basically to provide different materials to the learners so that they can, get hold of the entire craft. All the materials were packed, got together, packed. So our main objective became then to figure out, do research and learning, and figuring out how to put them in a small format, like the children were using the tags and also a format like that, which can become encouraging and accessible to everybody. So these are the kind of, we did some um, experimentation as to how we could actually package these things. What we were producing in the workshops was packaged in a small form so that, material access is available to everybody. So this is paper making. The process is the same as we do in industries, small scale industries. It's the same process, but packed in a smaller format. Indigo dyeing, yeah, all wanted to buy our own indigo stones, do clamp dyeing. So I thought, we should be able to give them some options. So we had things like bamboo to be, a pole instead of a plastic pole. We tried giving them bamboo poles, and also we tried using all natural materials, all sustainable materials as far as possible. Also did a lot of training programs, workshops with people. This is block printing. So we include the handmade blocks along with the colors, bags, natural color pads, so that the same traditional things are passed on, but in a little contemporary form. So a lot of workshops we've done, had really great enthusiastic children uh, who were amazing. Like parents came and told me like my child was sitting for 2 hours just reading. I've never seen my children sitting for so long with one thing. So that was very encouraging for us. And yeah, human need for making. We all, have an intrinsic need to make things, to be alive, and we all take pride in our stuff, in what we do, and our culture gives us a lot of insights about how we have grown, how we have assimilated a rich tradition through the over the ages, over centuries. So each craft, like be it weaving, tying dye, these have all become what they are. They have evolved over centuries, and this is it's the kind of the knowledge of centuries is passed on to us, and we can't afford to lose it. So, and crafts are not just like means of survival or economic means, but they're also a source of pride for us. It also helps us in our spiritual well-being, empowers us, gives us a lot of options for exploring. And that as the contexts are changing now, the world is evolving, lifestyles are changing, our consumer patterns are changing, schooling patterns have changed, our access to materials have changed. So we saw, as our children were growing up, we saw that they were no longer taught the crafts that we could learn, in our early years. So they could not learn it through the schools. As parents, most of them are busy. They just want the children to be engaged in something. But we somewhere best to see what kind of engagement it is, whether it's a meaningful engagement or it is just sort of passing our time. Most of the art and craft classes, so-called art and craft classes that we see here, are sort of copy, paste, color, those kind of things. So these are like things that child can explore on its own. So it doesn't really lead to widening their horizon, thinking horizon. So we really thought that there was a requirement, because of our changes that we have undergone, the digital stress that had come. There was a need to detox the children. There was also a need to, give them alternatives to what was available. And for this, we had to, we really thought of how we could take up this path. So we formulated our organization based on certain core values, which were like building motor skills, and not just motor skills like gross and hand skills and all, but actually a skill, building a skill for a lifetime. So any skill, like if you're weaving or if you do paper making, you build a skill for a lifetime. And also giving children opportunities to solve problems. So in our cushioned environments, children are not, given too much of access to materials and all, and there's too much of safety network around. It's great to have safety, but there should be, opportunities where the child is, getting into certain kinds of problems, independently trying to learn things, resolve them, go forward, because this is what builds resilience, coping, coping ability. So they are able to, when they grow up, they are able to deal with uncertain situations better. So these kind of things, also like our children are losing touch with their own culture. They can't appreciate their culture. If these children don't grow up to understand what a crime is, understand the difference between a industrial print and say a handwork print and a screen print or industrial print, how do they really recognize the worth of that object? So it's really important that they are brought back to their community identities and also learn about sustainable materials, natural things, connect to their environments. Connect also with interdisciplines, like each craft has its own history, their geography. So it's not just, even if you're measuring a cloth, it has a lot of mathematics involved, a square, rectangle, how to fold it, like for time, and what kind of, geometric patterns you can do with beads. So there's geometry involved. So all kinds of subjects are involved with this. So that would be an all-round development through each of these. Along with the right brain development, which is mostly the creative brain, and the lack of real creative involvements, we just use our left brain more. So a holistic approach would be to develop both the brains together.
So Vinita, yeah. Could you close within a minute now?
Yeah, sure. So once the core was developed, we, the core is the why. We understood why we wanted to do it. Then what remained was how, the process of doing it. And the third one is what we wanted to do, which is the outcome, the result, which is the kits. It came in the form of the kits. And the process that we went through was like the development and the research and everything. We went on to assess the markets, seeing the existing brands, positioning our brand, knowing our customers, our sales channels. We did a lot of, exhibitions to get direct feedbacks and all. And the challenges that we faced were like also immense, like in terms of inventory management, having a vast inventory, and standardizing this inventory, vendor management, scaling up, product diversification, keeping the ethos in mind. And but over the period of time, we see a lot of future within this, this scale that we are in. We want to, have some kind of maker spaces, community spaces, schools also turning into these kind of programs. Teachers can be trained, and a lot of students can be facilitated. So thank you for this opportunity, and over to you, Sangita.
Okay, thank you. So the one of the third enterprise that we want to introduce is Woody's Toys. And before I invite Vijay Pathi to speak, I'd just share a little bit about Woody's. Woody by Vijay Pathi brings together Vijay brought together this whole new enterprise with co-working with young designers from NID. It incorporates elements of child development like motor skills, hand-eye coordination, shape and color recognition. Woody toys are fun ways to learn, play, and enjoy. And it's a jugalbandi of crafts and design. And before we invite Vijay, we'd like to show a film on the Woody's Toys is located at Chennapatna. It uses the Chennapatna wood turning crafts. And there's a very nice film which we would first show before we showcase the toys that Woody's presents to the market. Shweta, can we show the film, please?
The businessman with a passion for design. On a road trip to Mysore once, Vijay felt the land of toys beckoning. And so began his journey with Channapatna Toys. Vijay started his venture Woody's and made it a blend of contemporary aesthetics with traditional craft, and the results have been spectacular.
During the mid 2000, say around 2005, 2008 period, a lot of products from China started flooding this market. It almost killed the entire sector in Channapatna. The artisans started to migrate to various places. When we made an analysis of the reasons for those, we found that our products were the same which were being done 20, 30, 40 years back. Today's living standards, today's lifestyle standards, today's generation love wooden toys, but the design elements are not to their liking, to their lifestyle. So we thought if design is given, the contemporary designs are given to the artisans, new products are developed, then we were very sure, confident that this toy industry can regain some of its shine which it was enjoying some years back.
Vijay found that the industry needed some work on design, packaging, and marketing.
Crafts are always made beautifully, but not marketed as beautifully as they are made. So that's again an area we thought is a gap. So we developed a beautiful packaging. So we did an analysis of the market. We found that airports will be an extraordinary place for the craft product to be sold, which will cater to the entire international market, particularly the international terminals of the airports. Significant upper end segment of the market. Those people have the buying power and those people have the understanding of the intricacies of a craft. Started to supply overseas market. We have made a small consignment to Australia and one consignment to the US.
Fueled by her passion to learn the traditional art of toy making, Sarita, now 26, has been in this industry for 10 years.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಕೆಲಸ ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೋಬೇಕಂತ ತುಂಬ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಮಗೆ ಇದೇ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಯಿತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೇಲಿನೂ ಇದೇ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಇವಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಮ್ಯಾರೇಜ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರು ಈ ಕೆಲಸದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ತಿರ್ಗಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ ನನಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಸಂತೋಷ ಆಯಿತು ಈ ಕೆಲಸದಲ್ಲಿ
A certain sense of contentment and pride is palpable when Sarita talks about the art and her work. Like her, there are many other women in the factory who are involved in different processes of toy making. Most people who join the industry have either inherited the art or are trained at the place they join.
ಇಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಇದು ಐಟಮು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಐಟಮು ಈ ಚನ್ನಪಟ್ಟಣದಲ್ಲೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರು ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಅವ್ರ ಓನಾಗೇ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಐಟಮ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ಇವರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಒಂದೇ ಸೆಟ್ಟೇ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಒಂದು ಸೆಟ್ ಆದರೆ ಒಂದು ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ 50 ಹಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನಾವು ಒಂದು 4-5 ಜನ ಸೇರಿಸಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಇವಾಗ ಒಂದು ತಿಂಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ತಿಂಗಳು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ 2-3 ತಿಂಗಳು
And let me share the screen. I'd like to show the toys. Oh, 1 second. I'm not able to share the screen. Do I have the screen share option?
Yes, of course.
Uh, just a minute. Okay. All right. Are you able to see it?
No, not yet.
Uh, mm, okay.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So I'm just going to run through the toys, and Vijay, you can speak. You have 5 minutes because there are also some interesting questions which have come. So if you'd like to speak, Vijay, once I show the pictures, then I'll address the questions because the questions are really towards you. So let me just scroll the pictures. So lovely set of toys. So I'll stop the screen sharing. Yeah. So I'm going to open the questions. There are a few questions. There are 4 questions which I'll first address to Vijay. One is, how can the current education system incorporate Indian crafts? And the traditional crafts in India are culture and region oriented. How can we make them universal?
See, our toys, which are woodies made from the Channapatna craft, we basically cater to 0 to 4 years age of the kids. Here, the basic important points for a parent would be safety of the child, because children tend to keep the toys in their mouth. If they are chemical based or plastic based, it's injurious to the children. Since Odis toys and Janapatna craft do not use any plastics and any chemicals, they are very safe. And we take very much care to see that there are no sharp edges. The size of the toy is very much enough, right size is done so that the child is unable to swallow the any part of the toy. So these are the basic elements of the design aspects of the toys which we have done for 0 to 4 years. Why I am stressing on the aspect of 0 to 4 years is across India, 0 to 4 year child remains same. Whether it is Gujarat culture or Tamil Nadu culture, the child doesn't understand any culture. The toys will be useful for all over the world, I can say, because 0 to 4 years is there, just they started growing in their lives. So these toys are colorful, they are safe, mostly rounded because it's lathe turned toys. We don't have any sharp edges. There are no triangles, there are no rectangles. If you see the toys very carefully, all of them are turned. And the colors used are vegetable colors. The shine and the buffing to the toy is done using a leaf. That's again a very unique aspect of the Channapatna toy making craft. It's an interesting story. Actually, it's a Parsi craft. Tippu Sultan was one of the kings, erstwhile kings of the Mysore region. He brought this craft into Channapatna and introduced it to those localities. And from there on, it developed on its own. And it has been in yoke since last 40 to 60 years in villages in and around Channapatna, which is around 2 hours to Bangalore. That is how these toys have been made. So my contention is, irrespective of the culture, irrespective of the region, these toys are enjoyable, and they don't. If you look at the educational aspect, if you stress on the education aspect, 0 to 4 years, a child shouldn't be learning anything. He should keep exploring various aspects of what life can offer them in future. There is no mathematics to be learned. There is no geography to be learned. It's all motor skills, how the fingers can be molded when they play using the toys, how they can stack the toys one over the other. We don't emphasize on learning numbers. We don't emphasize on learning alphabets. Traditional learning methodologies are not a part of the toy learning process. A toy.
So, Vijay, I'll add one question here that's come in from the audience. One is, you mentioned 0 to 4 years, but a person has asked, is there a possibility to incorporate technology within these handcrafted toys, which will help it sustain itself in a market full of technology-driven toys?
Yeah, no, I would differ with the gentleman. The USP or the unique positioning of these toys is they are technology not dependent. That is the USP of the toy. There are technology-based motorized toys, robotized toys. Plenty of them are available across. We don't want them to be. We don't want any technology to be introduced into the toy making, either the toy making process or the toys by itself. That's the beauty of the toy. The child doesn't need any technology when it is 0 to 4. They need to only enjoy playing with the toys. The process of their enjoyment itself will lead to different types of learnings which can happen. Subconsciously, the learning happens. When they stack the toy one over the other, the hand-eye coordination comes into play. Nobody needs to specifically do anything there. Leave them alone, give them the toys, they start playing, they start enjoying, they start learning. That's the beauty of these toys.
So my one question to Vinita Nahar, how can current education system incorporate Indian crafts?
So yeah, we have seen a lot of changes in the education system, and how it can incorporate it is already, whatever is being taught with a different perspective. A lot of experiential schools are doing that. And I think it's a great initiative by the government now that they are exploring or they have made a curriculum change for including toys, games as part of the curriculum. So the entire curriculum can be taught in a manner that it is explorative for the child, and so curriculum per se doesn't need to be changed. It is the method of teaching that needs to be changed. So you can reach the same outcomes. Whatever you want to teach can be taught in a more fun way, including crafts, because like I said, every craft has some kind of interdisciplinary learning aspect to it. How the teacher can take that out, it is up to them. You're on mute, Sangita.
Thank you, everyone. Because we have to stick to our schedule, so we need to end here. I really thank both of you, the people who have presented the case studies, and I'm sure people who are interested to work with you will contact you. Over to you, Hari.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you, Vinita and Vijay, for joining in as well. Very interesting work that both of you have been doing. We'd want to see and witness a lot more of your work and have master classes with us. That will be really interesting for the students as well. But for now, we'll have to be moving on to the next speaker session as well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks and congratulations to all of you for such a nice session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah.